So this one is going to be Reader's Workshop.
Yeah.
And I didn't print out my different pieces, but I thought I had something, but oh, here it is. Okay. So I found, since we were talking earlier, I found the English Language Arts Standards, so I'll just tell you which one I got. 2.0 reading comprehension, so read and understand grade level material, use a variety of comprehension strategies as needed, and one of them was comparing information from several sources. So that we'll do in our folk tales, and also literary response and analysis, respond to a wide variety of children's literature, theme, plot, settings, and characters, which they've been working on, and also distinguishing common forms of literature, poetry, drama, fiction, nonfiction, and narrative analysis of grade level appropriate texts by comprehending the basic plots of folk tales from around the world.
Okay.
And determining an underlying theme or the author's message. So, in folk tales, I listed like the main things that they talked about, the different elements of a folk tale. And I keep saying elements, parts, pieces, so that's a good academic language, actually. Elements, parts, features. And then I want to talk to them about the different parts that all of their folk tales had in them. Characters, a problem, a resolution, and some kind of conclusion. I just came up with that off the top of my head. And if those are all true, and if they can give me the different elements of a folk tale and identify what the parts are that are common, I'd like them to try to come up with one folk tale as a group. But then facilitating that and how to deal with competing ideas and things like that, I kind of want to know a little bit more about where you think their experience level is with that.
And it's kind of difficult. There are different ways that you could approach something like this. So if we're going to try to write a story whole class, you can approach it either by
Sectioning off parts? Or...
Yeah, you can section off parts and you can have different groups write different parts. The only thing with that is they may not necessarily connect.
Yeah.
So that can be kind of difficult. You can write it out like as a whole class and go sentence by sentence and either call in volunteers or have groups. Someone from each group has to come up with the next sentence, and then, you know, you could even say like, and I'm not going to repeat the same person from a group, so when I get back to your group, if you haven't had a turn yet, you need to be coming up with, you need to be sure that you're thinking of a sentence, because it may go to you. You can do a circle story where it has to go in order, and so the next person has to come up with the next sentence, which is usually pretty fun, but you'll get to some students who will just be like, I don't know. And so you need to be prepared to either say, well, you need to think of one, or know that your turn's coming up next, so you need to be coming up with a sentence, or, well, then I'm going to come back to you. Because you will get a couple of them. I'll tell you right now, Henry will probably do that to you. Giovanni is pretty shy, so he may clam up, and then you'll have a couple other ones. Some of my girls who might say, I just don't know. You'll have some of them who will feel the pressure and they'll come up with a really simple sentence, and that's great if they do.
Right.
But you'll have some who will get stuck. So if you want to try that, it's usually pretty fun and it works pretty well. You just need to be prepared for, what do I do when I get to a student who's going to just freeze the entire lesson up? Do I have someone help him? Do I come back to him? So that's the one thing to watch. The only other problem with a circle story too is sometimes after a student has a turn, they then think they can just tune out.
Not listen.
Yeah. Usually if it's interesting enough, they'll all pay attention and they'll be laughing, they'll be enjoying it. But if it ends up getting dull for some reason, you will get some who are just, fooling around because they know, you're not going to come back to them.
Okay.
So.
And for the circle story, do you do like a think map all together on the board or anything like that first to brainstorm ideas? Or do we go off the cuff?
It's really, it's up to your discretion because if you go off the cuff, it can go like completely different from what you want.
Okay.
But it also gives them more freedom to think of what kind of sentences they want to do. If you do a thinking map beforehand, you put it into a mold, it's going to more than likely stick to the way you want it, but then they're going to be forced to try to think of a sentence within the context of what you've already given them. Which is more challenging. Right. So it's kind of up in the air. What I would suggest is altogether try to come up with a lesson or a thing that you want to explain, or, well, I mean, you don't even have to do that. Come up with the characters and the setting together for sure, so that you know this is who we're going to be using.
Right.
It's up to you whether or not you want to come up with a lesson, because you may get some students who want to kind of jump the gun and end it early. But it'll also give them focus because the story needs to kind of somehow relate to that. So it's up to you whether or not you want to. I mean, think through it. And decide what you think, because I mean, depending on how you want to structure it, if you want to go all around, think about what's going to be challenging and what's going to be easier, and kind of balance it.
Right. I like the circle story idea because it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
But I am nervous about all of that what if at the end.
And there is a lot of what ifs with doing it, and it's just knowing what the what ifs are and then thinking how am I going to respond to it. So think through. Like, for example, if you say it's going to go in order, you know, they're going to know when their turn is. That's like a little bit more restrictive, just because every student's going to have to do it, and you know you're going to hit some who are going to be like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
If you decide that it's going to be one person from each table comes up with it, and it can be a volunteer from the table, you're not going to hit as many snags with kids not knowing what they're going to say, because there will more than likely be someone at the table who can get it.
Right.
But at the same time, not every kid might have, you know, an opportunity.
Right.
And so it's all just about balancing. If you're going to make it strict and say it's going to be every kid, you're going to have a challenge there. And then if you're going to plan out the whole thing, you know, you're going to have another challenge there. And if you're going to like really try to force them to stay in the mold, that's going to be another challenge. So it's kind of like maybe take the things that you think are most important, go with that, and let everything else kind of be whatever's easiest.
Right.
But it's just determining for you what you think is going to be the most challenging and what you think is going to be.
Right, because I am having a problem lately with participation. Either everybody likes what I'm doing and everybody wants to talk about it, or the same 5 or 6 people are talking about it and I'm trying to pull other people in.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking right now in this instance, I'd want to start maybe with volunteers and then try to go around. I got to think about it.
Yeah, something to think about. I mean, ideally you want all of the students to have a chance to participate.
Right.
So you want to be sure that you're hitting everyone. You can do it where it's like, you can go by partner, where you say, okay, I need a sentence from you too, but then the problem is they have to agree on what sentence they want to do.
Right, so that'll take talking.
Yeah, and then that's going to mean they're going to be talking to each other and they're going to decide, you might have some arguments.
And I'm going to be up at the board writing the sentences as we go.
Yeah.
So I can't be like, hurry up, you're next, or whatever.
I would recommend, I think it's probably best just to go from student to student, because I know their turn's going to be coming up next, so they have some heads up with that. And then if you hit someone who's just like, I don't know, you say, well then I'm going to go to the next person and I'm coming back to you, and if you don't have a sentence, you know, there's going to be a consequence, or however you want to face it, if you want to give them another opportunity, or you can let them call on somebody else, you know, you can let them give up their turn if it becomes like a big hassle.
Right.
But you want to try to get everyone to participate.
And you want this, do we try to wrap up the story within one go around and everybody has a say?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, because it's going to be 20 sentences if you go to everyone.
Right. So I'm going to say around now we should probably be thinking about what problem we're going to have. Around now we should probably think of a...
And you can always interject yourself into it whenever you need to. Like if you say, you know what, I think this would probably be a good place to end this paragraph. Maybe if we just add this one sentence on the end, and then we can move on to the middle, you know? And then you can always interject yourself in when you need to.
Okay.
You don't want to leave it completely up to them, especially if you see that it starts going like way off.
Yeah.
Because it'll just continue to spiral if it becomes that. So know that you have the power to say, okay, I see we're kind of going off, so I'm going to bring this back a little bit, and then we're going to continue. And as long as you explain, you know, I'm doing this because, and you give them a reason, they won't get frustrated with it. They won't feel like you're taking the story away from them. So just guide it back when you need to. I mean, you could always write the last sentence to end it off, or you can always, I mean, if it ends early, I guess it ends early, but I don't know. Circle stories can be difficult because there are so many different ways that it can go. Sometimes it'll go very smooth, and sometimes it's it's challenging. So
we'll take it as a trial run.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
So, especially with fables, because you need to, it does fit more to a mold than just like a normal story where, okay, as we're going, all right, now we need to think of a problem, and then you write some more, okay, now we need to think of a solution, you know, and then you can basically end it whenever. With this, you're trying to fit it into some sort of thing where, okay, it has to explain this, or it has to teach this, you know.
Yeah, I'd like them to definitely vote on what they want it to explain first, and then we'll go into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. So I'll choose the characters and the setting, and then they'll choose the explanation of nature. Awesome. 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And
is that okay, Jasmine? Like, I don't know. I don't want to overwhelm you by saying, like, so much stuff can go wrong with this.
No, it's very, very true. And,
Okay.
like, I need all of that information up front because sometimes I'll over-structure or under-structure, and then I don't know what to look for.